You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts now.
I'm back. Rujance for Black and White Sports 2. Well, let's talk about Tua Tagovailoa. Once again, as we know, he got concussion number 3 of the season this past Sunday from his head bouncing off the turf during the game against the Green Bay Packers. And, of course, a lot of people are starting to ask a lot of questions about how in the world was this not spotted, found, identified somehow, some way during the game. He came back to the Dolphins the next day and said he was experiencing symptoms. Now, the reason this is so public, the reason this is such a big deal, is because of the 2 earlier concussions earlier in the year for Tua. The first one, which was missed, also against the Bills, in a similar situation to this one where his head bounced off the turf. That's the part I don't quite understand about the NFL, having missed this, or if heads bouncing off turfs don't automatically sort of get their dander worked up, I guess is one way to put it. How come that's not a high alert situation? We don't know. Like, everything's got to be a hit from a helmet or a hit from another player, impact hit in that kind of way, or they have to be stumbling after the fact. Because the video is pretty clear. You can tell his head bangs off the turf. Well, because of that, we've got a cover-your-ass situation happening now, a CYA situation happening with the NFL, as they're now trying to proactively get out ahead of any backlash. Now, you might be like, is there going to be backlash? Well, I can tell you, just for example, PFT, Pro Football Talk, their show, their actual television show, they spent the first 40 minutes of a 2-hour program breaking down Tua Tagovailoa's concussion. This is going to be a serious major story going forward, probably until the end of the season. You've got a lot of ex-NFL players that have made comments about maybe he should sit out the rest of the year. Aaron Rodgers made some comments, and we're going to look at those as well. But first, let's look at the NFL trying to cover its ass. They have proactively got their chief medical officer, Alan Seals, out there busting his butt now. He went on the NFL Network, a league-owned television network, to try to talk about how they were proactive. Oh, we were proactive. We were brave, stunning, and courageous in trying to identify as something that we could not see and we did nothing about, and we didn't move on whatsoever. Yeah, they're trying to cover their ass now. This is Florio on this one, and we'll have Bleacher Report for Rodgers. The people paid to spot potential head trauma during NFL games failed again to do their jobs. The NFL is again circling the wagons in effort to persuade the fans and media that all is well, nothing to see here. Please move along. Please disperse. Leslie Nielsen naked gun style. Appearing on NFL Network, anybody that's in their 40s will know exactly what I'm talking about and have that vision. Appearing on NFL Network, league-owned outlets that isn't naturally inclined to pose tough questions to in-house colleagues. In other words, they're going to get a bunch of softball shit launched at them. NFL Chief Medical Officer Alan Seals defended the handling of Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa's latest concussion. Because, of course, he did. That's a nice little smart-ass, snarky comment from Florio. Quote, what our spotters and our unaffiliated neuro doctors are looking for is any blow that transmits force to the head or neck area, followed by injury behavior, Seals said, via Jason Owens of Yahoo Sports. And so there are many blows to the head that occur during a game. There were no visible signs present, even though there was a blow to the head and the player did not report any symptoms, despite being in contact with the medical staff throughout the game, so there's nothing that would have triggered the protocol in the moment. That's an adroit way of tiptoeing around the reality that the player, patient's specific history should have compelled a concussion evaluation during the game after Tua hit his head on the turf. Exactly. That tells me there's no other way to put it. NFL spotters are not watching these games. They're not watching these games. They're eating some nachos. They're looking around. I mean, sure, they may see 9 out of 10 plays, but that leaves a lot of plays that they're missing in a game. Theoretically, maybe 8 to 10. Who knows? Maybe more than that. Whether anyone noticed any symptoms during the game is one thing. Whether anyone noticed a blow to the head that should have resulted in a simple sideline examination of Tua for any symptoms whatsoever is another. Dr. Seals, frankly, is adept at maneuvering through his potential landmines that lurk after a situation like this. He can, with confidence and authority, say whatever needs to be said to make it sound like everything was handled properly, even if it wasn't. In this case, the question is whether Tua should have been placed in the protocol. It's whether he should have had a proper evaluation based on the fact that his head hit the turf. Obviously, something happened to Tua. A day later, he had sufficient symptoms to land in the protocol. The comments from Dr. Seals gloss over the simple reality that maybe, just maybe, someone should have taken a close look at Tua during, not after the game. All right, and this is what Rodgers said when he was with Pat McAfee. He praised Tua, by the way, a lot. Quote, "It's probably time to maybe consider shutting it down," Rodgers said during an appearance on Pat McAfee. "As a competitor, it's the last thing you want. But at some point, you do start thinking about your cognitive function later in life." He added, "I like the kid. I think he's a real good kid. I like the way he speaks and represents his team and goes about his business. I just hope he gets the right help to make the right decision for him." And of course, he's talking about whether or not he should shut it down. And as much as I tend to lean in the direction of, look, man, you're looking at 3 in a year. That's bad. We said yesterday in the video where we talked about this having happened that, look, it's ended quarterbacks' careers. Steve Young, Troy Aikman, 2 quarterbacks. And 3 in a year, you start getting really concerned. Okay, really concerned. That's a lot of head trauma in 1 year for any player, all right? Although sometimes I wonder if most of these players don't all have a concussion coming out of every game. I mean, it's such a sport where there's just so much impact and so much whiplash and heads moving like this or whatever. And I mean, it's a violent game. Hell, it was a lot more violent 10 years ago and before than it is now. But you get the point. They don't know about CTE in the moment because they can only identify it once a player's dead and they look at the brain. That's the other thing they got to figure out is how do they test for CTE while somebody is still alive and even still playing? That's another big place to go into. But that's neither here nor there. Look, if he passes the concussion protocol, you can't tell Tua that he can't play. All right? I mean, should they probably rest him? They did rest him, I believe, a week or 2 longer than after he passed the protocol after the Bengals, the very public Bengals game. Could they do that? Yeah, but Tua is, obviously they're wanting to try to make the playoffs. They are still alive. But all is not lost if you're a Dolphins fan. Teddy Bridgewater is the quarterback on that team that's the backup. A guy that arguably could be starting for 3 or 4 teams right now. And that's why they signed him. I also think that's why Tua has tried to push himself to play, because he's got a guy with a lengthy background as a starter behind him. All right? But there's no doubt there was an obvious change in the play level that Tua had during the game before and after the concussion the other day. Before the concussion, he was absolutely killing it. After the concussion, I mean, the wheels fell off and he threw 3 interceptions. I mean, it was obvious something strange was going down. It really was weird. He just had a total and complete meltdown on the field as a quarterback. I don't know. Tell me what you think. Black and White Sports 2 supporters. Appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you hit subscribe. Peace. I'm out. Till next time, Black and White Network supporters, make sure you go over and check out the Black and White Network merchandise store. 25% off USA First. 25% off USA First. Go now.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.